Well, hello! So, I am making a follow-up video. I was looking through my channel, and I did not realize this old video had 80,000 views, and that's interesting to me because I just made this quickly a long time ago when superchargers came to the game, and I was like, hey, you know what? This is a new thing. People want to know how to spend these. I figured I might as well show people what I'm spending my superchargers on. But as you might have noticed, that was 2.25 years ago. That's a long time for me to get a lot of superchargers. And if you're interested in how to get those, I have a video I'll link down below on the Ventures rewards. In that video, I also link the Fortnite DB site. I think it's in here somewhere. There it is. Showing when you get these rewards. So if you guys want to get superchargers, there are two main ways. One, you want to run Ventures. You get all the superchargers throughout the season. That's kind of how you get them. And then two, you want the supercharger quest line, which you know what? I have a copy paste. I've never made a video on this. I probably should. But you unlock the supercharger weekly quest after completed twice as D10 and halfway through the quest line in Candy, I think. And then at 124, you can queue the missions, or you can beg people to carry you. You can probably guess which one I prefer you do, but yeah, if you're interested in how to get them, there you go. But I've had 2 years of running those missions, and even after this video, I made a video on how to spend your superchargers, and I still recommend watching this. I might look nice and young, there might be nothing behind me, my set is new and fancy now, but I still gave good advice on this, and I gave my philosophies on how I spent stuff, and I'll be getting into that today. I'm going to link this video down below, and you can see my notepad I showed earlier. I'm going to go in order of this video, where I showed you how to supercharge your Survivor superchargers, Hero, Trap, and Weapon superchargers. So, yeah, without further ado, let's start off with my Survivor squads. This is what they look like nowadays. If you want a proper video, this is not edited, by the way, it's just a casual video, but if you want a proper video on how to spend your Survivor squads, I'll link that video down below, or at least I'll try to remember it. And yeah, I recommend starting with your mythic leads. That will give you the most power level boost out of the gate. It's really not that big of a deal. Some people might make a big deal out of this, like, oh, you got to spend this in there. It kind of doesn't matter. You're gonna get 145 in the end anyway. I have not finished through much adventures, but as of recording this, 141 is very much possible. I just haven't done it yet, and that's what I mean. It really doesn't matter that much. Yeah, supercharge your mythic leads first, then your mythic survivors second, and then from there, just pick your favorite squad. I personally have always worried about offense first. That's actually what I finished in my research right away. So I did my offensive squads first, and then I'm kind of doing tech because that's your trap damage, which is pretty good. And then from there, I mean, it doesn't even matter. You can just go left to right for all it matters. So yeah, supercharging survivors is super easy. And I've got plenty of 144 survivors. It's been pretty random. I've mostly focused on like trap durability because that's kind of important, but it's, as I've mentioned several times, not that big of a deal. Second are heroes. So supercharging heroes. The main difference that supercharging a hero gives is your health and shield go up, and your ability damage go up. Now, a few factors change, but those are the three big ones. So what I focused on were a couple of things. Ironically, I was going to say I focused on Paleoluna because upping her health directly translates to damage. In her unique case, she buffs your damage based on how much health you have, and making her health higher literally ups her damage. But I was going to say, ironically, I started with Stoneheart Pharah. I use her all the time. Bows are great, but I figured later that it might not have changed that much. So what I've been focusing on since then were the ability heroes. Diecast Jonesy buffing your Commando. I'm going to just go through these kind of sporadically. Dragon Scorch buffs your Dragon Slash. Then we've got Metal Team Leader and Fragment Flurry are both really good for Teddy, and she does Shock Tower as well because fragments. And then you've got Whiteout Fiona, typically used in like sword builds, so more health is kind of good. And in her specific case, this is why I think this video is worth an update. In Whiteout Fiona's specific case, I showed her in my, you know what, I'm going to use my stream deck to pull up this video nice and quickly, in my Stormblade video, where the Stormblade boom damage actually pulls a lot of its damage based off your hero ability damage, and that'll come up in a second here when I bring it up more. So supercharging Whiteout Fiona, as she was my commander, actually made the weapon do more damage, curiously. And another video that is extremely important here is the strongest loadout I've ever seen. These are 250 power level smashers, and you're probably going to see me annihilate them right here. And the damage that is happening in this video, I might link this down below. I don't want to link too many videos, but you know, there's a lot to talk about here because, like I said, 2 years gave me a lot to supercharge. And The weapon quirk that's going on here is the black metal weapons take their damage from your hero ability damage. I'm not sure if that's intentional or whatever, but you can see monstrous amounts of damage comes from that combination. So supercharging the commanders that work well with that specific loadout made a lot of sense. So I'm actually working on Flash AC, supercharging him to max. I even did like Battle Beat and Stars and Stripes just to get them higher up on my list, but focusing on stuff like that was very important. And even in the future, Dragon Scorch is also really good in that build, but supercharging heroes that can affect that will make kind of a big difference. So yeah, as for the rest of the heroes, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. Like again, Raven and Carbide, both ability, but Buckshot, because I use them all the time. Crackshot, because I use them all the time. Barret, Iza, because I use them all the time. I don't think I need to explain all of these specifically, but that's my priority. I focused on the health of Luna, and then I focused on ability heroes. Basically, the heroes that are in your commander slot for ability damage, they need to be supercharged first, and then I moved on to just my favorite heroes. In my opinion, I want to have every hero that I regularly use supercharged. I want 5 stars up there every single time. So like First Shot Rio might be nice. Although farming heroes are a bit of an exception, and so are constructors, because constructors, you're kind of running like a passive build anyway. I know that chat is covering this, by the way. I should probably turn this off for the rest of the video. I apologize in advance, but I'm not really showcasing any specific hero build, so I don't think it's too big of a deal. So sorry about that, but either way, you see my point. Let's move on to traps. Traps are pretty much done for me, actually. So I focused on the big 3. For ceilings, we did Seal Electric Field, you know, because it's awesome. Nature and energy are both very, very good. Ceiling Drop Trap, because it stuns enemies, knocks them back, and supercharging, I believe, buffs its impact and damage, which is a really good combo. So Ceiling Drop Trap is super, super useful, and Broadsides. One of the best wall traps in the game. Nowadays, I think wall darts are more flexible, so I supercharge those as well. Then I also did gas traps, because they are still pretty good. They're kind of ignored nowadays because Seal Electric Field are so popular and so safe and convenient, but gas traps are still really, really good paired with like Floor Freeze. You'll note that Floor Freeze is not supercharged because it ups the impact, which means it can freeze like Smashers easier, which is nice, but it's super not that big of a deal. That's why I focused on damage traps for sure, get the damage ones done, and then Healing Pad and Campfire. They both heal you more and better. Kind of fought for my tongue there. They both heal you more when they are supercharged. So might as well make these even better. And then I did Tar Pit just because again I use it all the time. Next will probably be Floor Freeze because I use the Floor Freeze a lot. They are very, very good for just freezing an enemy, making them take more damage in the process. Pair that with Gas Trap, you're off to a great time. So supercharging traps is super convenient. If you really want like a safe one to start with, it's Electric Fields, but then from there, I mean, Electric Field, Drop Trap, Tar Pit, Broadside, all these are pretty safe, but I said they're kind of done because trap superchargers are not the rarest thing, I guess, in the long run, but there aren't that many traps to use them on. After I do my Floor Freeze, I don't know, man. Wall Dynamo? Maybe I'll start using those. Sound Walls could be good against the fatties. Maybe Anti-Air Traps could do more damage against the Flinger zombies. It's really stopped making much of a difference, so my trap superchargers have been spent on those. Now for the big one. This video is only 8 minutes in, but I think weapons are going to be the most to talk about. That's why we're all here. Let me get back into why I supercharge the things that I do. And that philosophy was shared in that How to Spend Your Superchargers video, and that is kind of against what a lot of people might want to start with. So a lot of people start with like the Storm King's Wrath, and then the Pot Shot, and the De-Atomizer, because they want to buff the strongest weapons. In my opinion, the strongest weapons in the game do not need a supercharger. I haven't said this number since now, but yeah, the superchargers tend to increase a weapon's overall damage output by 14.5%. So I know my traps are going to be in here. Maybe I can just do my range weapons first. Yeah, I'll do that. 14.5%. That's your big number. That's basically like adding a damage perk. Typically that 30% damage is not actually 30% damage, and it's more like 15% real world damage. So supercharging a weapon is not that big of a difference. So in my opinion, I have focused on single element weapons, typically locks to energy, because if I supercharge a weapon with multiple elements, you can see just how many Bobcats I have, I would be supercharging the same weapon 6 times. Don't even get me started on the Ground Pounder or the Hemlock, because there are way too many different copies of this weapon. So the first weapon I ever supercharged was a Xenon Bow, because it's actually a very low damage bow. It's actually not that high damage, and it's locked to energy. So considering that it's an extremely universal, highly, highly used S tier weapon, I figured that's an easy supercharge right there. Same thought process with the vacuum tube bow. Vacuum tube bow I actually supercharged way later in my career, but it's locked to nature. You can only really feasibly build one copy of this unless you want different perks for some reason, which I have not found any use for. So that was an easy supercharge. Electroshock rifle. I personally really enjoyed this weapon. It's really low damage, so I figured supercharging it would be make it a little bit more useful, would be useful in that way, and I was right about that. Same deal with the Bastard Mini, the Scourge. They can only be one element. I know Scourge can be physical, but like, when are you really using physical? I used it in my Crackshot MSK fight, where physical made sense, but other than that, you know. Nocturno is one of the weapons where I broke my norm of different elements, because I only have one Nocturno. So I'm changing this thing's elements around throughout the year anyway. So supercharging that made pretty good sense in my opinion. Plus it's a fantastic weapon. So you can see I've gone back and forth, where weaker weapons can kind of benefit from the supercharger, but I've also supercharged like top meta weapons, because these are the weapons I use all the time. And that's the other part of my philosophy, is I tend to prefer single element, lower damage weapons, but I also encourage people to focus on what they really enjoy using. And these are the weapons I really enjoy using. These 144s are my favorite weapons right here. That Blackout AR, I talked about it earlier. Now I'm supercharging the heroes that go along with it and the weapon itself, because it's that damn strong. Of course, we are locked in a water season right now until January 25th. So fire and physical weapons aren't exactly going to be too useful, but when the year rolls back around, this weapon will be usable once again, and I'll have a lot of fun, no doubt. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, where I made a video on how to spend your superchargers, which encourages people how to spend on what they might like. I can't know what your favorite weapons are, but I know it might be helpful, or at least interesting for you guys to know, like, why I supercharge what I ultimately ended up supercharging. Because if I'm the guy telling you how to spend them, I can understand that you might want to know what I spent it on. And same deal with the Cannonade and the V6 launcher. They're just super fun weapons. Multi-element, but typically these don't get used that often, so it's not a big deal. And the Pop Shot, I don't even know. I think I put it up to like a poll in Twitch chat, and they voted for it, and I went, F it. I don't regret this, but Ground Pounder or Huskbuster were equally up for that role. Hemlock down the line. Yeah, I want to get into these multi-element weapons, but I've talked to Epic about this, and the amount of time it would take me to supercharge the rest of my weapons is 24 years. So, maybe I'll make a few more update videos. I don't know. Let's talk about melees. Storm King's Ravager is self-explanatory. It's single element, although not really. That's why I supercharged it twice. That was very, yeah, I did that because there aren't that many good melees. But super strong weapon. I use it all the time. Stormblade, as mentioned earlier, this is a weapon that is just super, super strong with that build I showed earlier. And again, F it. It can only be energy, so I supercharge it, and I do not regret it. Same deal with Vacuum Tube Sword. It can be one element. Super good, especially in this water season. I have been having a blast with it. But, yeah, those are the weapons that I supercharged and why. Hopefully this was enlightening. Hopefully this gave you guys some ideas. If you are struggling on how to spend your superchargers, this can be a good guide. But remember, please, these are just my favorite weapons. I don't know how you like to play. Ty Baby in our group, I should have asked her for a screenshot of her weapons before I recorded this, because she has supercharged some of the most off-the-wall crap I would have never even dreamt of. And that's just what she likes to do. And if that's how you want to spend your superchargers, hey, they're yours. Spend them as you please. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And yeah, take it easy.